Hi, this is Elwin. I'm a natural health enthusiast. I'm also the founder of Lionheart Herbs, Complete Detox Academy and High Energy Academy. And in this video, I'm going to look at the question, what is the ideal diet? Now, I get asked this quite a lot, maybe not with those exact words, but I get people ask me, what do you think of this diet? And what do you think of that diet? Or what do you think the perfect diet is? Or what do you think the perfect diet for me is? Or something along those lines. And what I'm really hearing from them, like behind it, is what is the ideal diet, right? Either for me or even for everyone. So the usual answer is that, and of course this is an important question, right? Actually, before I get to that, because we've got to eat, right? This is something that we have to get right. And I would say that this is a big focus for human beings for a couple of different reasons. First of all, for a very good reason, which is, as I say, we have to eat. And if we do eat badly, whatever that may be, it does negatively impact our health, our energy, and our quality of life quite severely, right? So it is an important issue to address. However, there are other things that are really important for health and energy, like for instance, the way you breathe, the amount of tension you have in your body, the amount of time that you spend in nature, connected and grounded, and things like that we don't tend to focus on as much. And I think the reason is because for millions of years or hundreds of thousands of years, depending on how you define a human being, of our evolution, kind of one of our main preoccupations is getting enough food and making sure that the food that we get isn't poisonous, right? And other things like getting fresh air and exercise and getting sunlight and getting contact with the earth, all those things kind of were taken care of, like naturally, just in the process of living. So we tend to like really over focus on food, but it is an important issue. So the answers around this are usually either what I would call one, dogmatic, right? So what does dogmatic mean? It means a very black and white perspective, like this is the right diet, right? And a lot of people even go further than that and say this is the right diet for everyone, you know? So everyone should be a vegan, everyone should eat paleo, right? Everyone should eat Atkins, everyone should be a fruitarian. That kind of approach, right? Like this is, or maybe even if they don't say everyone should do it, they're like, well, we eat this diet so we're better than other people, right? That kind of approach. Basically the idea that there is one correct diet and I know what it is. That's the kind of dogmatic approach that you see very, very commonly. And it makes sense that we see it a lot because it's very reassuring, right? If you're feeling uncertain and not sure what to eat and someone says, this is it, this is the way, I'm 100% sure, then it's very appealing. And of course there is some validity to what each of these people say, even when they're saying like totally opposite things, right? So for instance, someone's saying, oh, you know, you should eat only fruit diet, right? A pure fruitarian diet. There's some validity to that, at least short to medium term, that's going to be very helpful. And who knows, maybe occasionally long term for some people as well, right? So short to medium term, it means you're not going to eat all kinds of other foods which maybe were debilitating for you. You know, maybe you're not having wheat, you're not having soy, you're not having dairy, you're not having all these things. You're not having all the MSG and the preservatives and the additives and the flavorings and all the stuff that's added to food. Maybe you're giving your liver a break by not giving it fat to digest, right? So there's loads of benefits potentially, and of course it makes sense that when a lot of people do it, initially they feel better. Also it gets a good sugar rush, right? Eating fruit all day, I mean, like could be worse, right? But then of course medium to long term problems tend to start to show up. Or there's an opposite perspective. No, you should just eat lots of meat and you shouldn't have any fruit, you shouldn't have anything, like a no carb, high protein kind of diet, right? Like the opposite almost. And I can see how that would have some benefits, right? Maybe the person is deficient in protein, so that might help them. Probably more likely that again, it's cutting out a lot of things, like it might be cutting out refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, all those things that are really bad for you. So we get the benefit from that. Plus, if you have candida or any kind of issue that's made worse by having carbs, if you have insulin resistance, if you have pre-diabetes, any of that kind of thing, then I can see how that will make you feel better, right? So with all these dogmatic approaches, I don't think anyone is lying. It seems like some people get some benefit at some point, and for a few people it's actually the right way, kind of medium to long term. But for most of us, we try this and it doesn't work. And sometimes we beat ourselves up, so we try to eat like a pure raw food diet, or we try and eat a pure no carb diet or whatever. Pure, right? And then eventually we slip up and beat ourselves up. Oh, I ate some carbs, I'm not a bad person. Or I ate cooked food, or I ate animal food, whatever it might be. Beat ourselves up, flogging. When really, maybe it's because that dogmatic approach isn't actually accurate rather than because there's something wrong with us. Which brings us to the second kind of common answer that I see quite a lot, which is what I call, obviously teasingly, the hippie approach, right? Now I do prefer this one out of the two. So this is the approach that says, hey man, just eat whatever works for you, you know? Don't worry about it. Now, while the challenge with this one is the dogma and the rigidity and the black and white thinking, which usually is not how the world works, the challenge with this one is it's way too vague. That's not helpful. So listen to your body is good advice if your body's fairly healthy, right? But I know for me, when I first started on this health journey, my body was pretty unhealthy, right? So if I listened to my body as to what I should eat, my body was like, drink coffees, put plenty of milk in there, put plenty of sugar in there, like eat large amounts of food only late at night, because that's the only time I was really hungry, loads of fatty food, loads of sugar. And that's what my body wanted. In fact, I used to be into drugs like cannabis, like tobacco, like alcohol. My body was saying, "Hey, give me another cigarette." So if I just listened to my body, that wasn't going to work so well for me, right? So just listening to your body, just listening to your intuition, that becomes more and more helpful advice the more genuinely healthy you are. The other problem with this one is that there's a huge amount of self-deception within that, right? So you could, just listen to your body. Yeah, my body really just craves fruit right now. It's like, maybe that's the case, or maybe it's the candida. Maybe it's whatever organism is feeding off that sugar, or maybe it's that your blood sugar has crashed and you need something to stabilize it. But if you have something very sweet, like maybe a sweet fruit, like I don't know, banana or mango or something like that, it's just going to go up, and you're going to carry on being on an emotional and energy roller coaster, right? So there's some capacity for self-deception there. So what's the truth? Well, first of all, as most of you know me well now, I'm a lover of truth, right? I really want to find out the truth. To me, it's really important. And so for me, the truth is often, the reality of the situation is often complex. It's not as simple as we like to make it. So the first thing I'll ask you to consider is maybe there's actually no such thing as an ideal diet, right? So why was I going on about being a lover of truth? Well, because one of the things that you learn if you're really, really into truth, I'm sure many of you relate to this, is that you have, when a question is asked, you have to see what presuppositions or assumptions are in that question. So with this question, what is the ideal diet? One of the presuppositions in there is that there is such a thing. Like there is this Garden of Eden magical ideal diet out there, and if you could just find what it is and eat it, all would be well. Now, isn't that a comforting, reassuring thought? It is, but I don't think it's actually accurate. I don't think it's true. And I think it's less and less accurate the more unhealthy you are, So maybe if your body is just in like a peak capacity of health and fitness in every way, there probably is an ideal diet for you. But if you're struggling, like I remember when I was first starting on this journey, like all my internal organs were pretty unhealthy. My liver was unhealthy, my pancreas is unhealthy, my kidneys were unhealthy, my spleen was unhealthy. So I had a challenge, right? So the challenge was if I got a lot of calories from fat, then that would overload my liver and my gallbladder, and that would make me feel bad. But if I got a lot of my calories from sugar, that would overload my pancreas, right? As well as creating candida issues. And if I tried to get a lot of calories from protein, then this would create problems with my stomach and with my kidneys as well. Stomach in terms of digesting all that protein, and kidneys in terms of the excess of nitric acid that it has to deal with, right? So basically, I was in a lose-lose-lose situation. There was no ideal diet for me, right? It was simply a matter of finding out what the best kind of compromise was at the time. So what I'd say is it all depends on context, right? Rather than the ideal diet, full stop, for everyone at all times, it's more about, what is the best possible diet for me right now. That's really the question that's relevant, right? There's no point in asking what's going to be the best diet in 5 years' time. I mean, that's something that's really, really hard to work out. But you can ask yourself, what is the best diet for me right now, right? So I would say, what I'd recommend is you need to find a best fit. So for me at that time when I was struggling in that situation I just related to you, as I said, there was no ideal source of calories for me, right? And if I had no calories at all, if I just fasted, then all my organs were overloaded, because when you don't have any calories, then your body starts to detoxify and process this backlog of toxicity that's been stored in the cells, especially the fat cells. So basically, I just had to find a best fit. Now, the best fit for me happened to be like a highly alkaline diet, a highly raw diet, and a diet with no sugar. And when I really went into that, That's what worked really well for me. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work well for everyone, and it doesn't mean it's going to work well for you. And here's the interesting thing as well, that's not how I eat anymore. That was the best fit for me at the time. The way I eat now is the best fit for me at this time. And who knows, in another, because this is like 6-7 years ago, maybe in another 6 and 7 years time, I might be eating it completely differently again, because that'll be the best fit. So you have to be willing to keep experimenting and upgrading, right? This is true whatever level you're at. So if you're someone who's really just starting with this whole thing, like questioning the way you eat for the first time, you know, by all means, like find out about a raw food diet, find out about a vegan diet, find out about a paleo diet, find out about an Atkins diet, find about these different things. But what I notice people tend to do when they do that is they get all confused about all these different things, all saying opposite things, and they're like, oh, I give up, I might as well just have a burger or whatever, right? I wouldn't recommend that. What I would recommend instead, well, unless a burger is allowed, but wouldn't be allowed in paleo, wouldn't be allowed in Atkins. No, I think none of those diets I mentioned you'd be allowed a burger. But rather than trying to find who is right, because that assumes that there is one ideal diet, try and work out what is the best thing for you and work that out by, as I said, experimenting, by just trying it. And also don't be too quick to jump to conclusions, right? So for instance, if your main issue is that your body's overloaded with toxicity, then if you have quite a pure diet, say a raw diet or a fruit only diet, or even a vegan diet, a vegetarian diet, there's a chance that you're going to overload your system, right? Because of all the toxicity that's released. So, you know, if you're used to eating like a standard, you know, SAD, they call it, standard American diet, and then you go straight into eating like a raw vegan diet, like, and then, you know, within 2 days later, you're like, oh, I feel awful, this raw vegan thing doesn't work. Well, give it a chance, you know, maybe seek out the expertise of someone who knows what they're doing and, you know, get some guidance. Maybe you shouldn't go straight from what you're doing to, you know, something so totally different. Maybe you need to take it in steps and phases, right? Maybe to start with, you should just like limit yourself to eating everything you want to, and just except for anything that has got any ingredient in that you've never heard of before, you know? So if it's got like 5-ribonucleotide dichloric acid or something like that, you're like, what the hell is that? Don't eat it, you know? Or whatever it might be, monosodium. If there's a vague expression like natural flavoring, that usually means MSG, by the way, you know? Like, don't eat it. Don't eat anything with chemicals in, right? Instead of counting your calories, count your chemicals. That can actually be a significant improvement, right? Or, you know, if you want to go to the next level, maybe, well, I'm not going to have anything with, you know, soy or soya in, right? I'm not going to have anything with gluten in. If you really feel like you've like really overdone it with the animal foods, for instance, all your life, maybe you might try just cutting that down or not having it at all for a period of time, right? But, you know, and ditto with sugar, right? If you know, if you have crave sugar, you probably shouldn't be having sugar. So, you know, look at maybe just removing refined sugar to begin with. So, you know, and for some people that works, do one little step at a time. For some people like me, it works to just like totally throw yourself into it. So what I did is I went overnight pretty much from eating like croissants and pizza and lattes to like eating this raw vegan diet. Now that's definitely not a good idea for everyone. For me it was because I'm a creature of extremes. Like once I immerse myself in it, I go for it, right? And if I'm going to immerse myself in like abusing substances, I immerse myself in that. I'm going to immerse myself in being healthy and fit as possible, I immerse myself in that. So again, there's no hard and fast rules, it depends on your type. But what I'm saying is don't necessarily do that. Don't necessarily like switch totally, right? Find something that works for you. The last thing I'll, you know, add here is that, you know, my thing that's probably like the #1 thing that I'm known for, and the thing that I really encourage you to take on board, is that all that matters is results, right? There is no virtue in and of itself in eating a vegan diet or eating a no-carb diet, or whatever it might be, right? There is a virtue in being healthy. There's a virtue in feeling fully alive. There's a virtue in having all your neurochemicals and hormones being balanced so that you actually feel happy and good and like your life is meaningful and like, you know, you're a worthwhile person, that kind of thing. That matters, right? Don't get so caught up in like the diets and the you know, fads and all the rest of it. What matters is that you are healthy and happy and living your best life and being the person that you're meant to be. So I really hope that was of value to you, and I'd love to hear your feedback. So if you have any, if you agree, if you disagree, if you have any questions, please leave them underneath in the question section. I look forward to seeing them and answering as many as I can. Also, if you have any questions for, I plan to do this regularly once a week for at least a while. So if you have any questions that you would like me to address in a video like this, then I'd love to hear it. Please post it underneath, and I look forward to responding to it. Also, if you're not already, make sure that you subscribe to YouTube as well as my website. There should be a link for that. Even if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, I recommend subscribing to my website as well, because sometimes I do exclusive training series that are not on YouTube, that's only for my subscribers, as well as exclusive discounts and stuff like that. So make sure to subscribe to my website as well. So thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to hearing your feedback and seeing you next week. Have an awesome, healthy week.